Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon for our annual meeting. My name is Pam Breyer, and I'm the Executive Director of the Action Center. We're so pleased to have you with us today and to have an opportunity to share with you the work and impact and financial health of the Action Center in 2021. I hope you enjoyed our pre-event slide showcasing the talent of our Jeffco School students, sharing their depictions of why they matter. The artwork is a great reflection of our theme for today's event, supporting Jeffco families and children. A little later in our program, we'll have the opportunity to highlight the important collaboration and partnership we have with the Jeffco Public Schools serving Jeffco families. With us today to illuminate that theme, our Superintendent of Jeffco Public Schools, Tracy Dorland, and School Liaison from Rose Stein Elementary, Melissa Alvarez-Lizano. And finally, we'll have the opportunity to recognize and appreciate the Action Center's Board of Directors. With us today from the Action Center's board are our fantastic board chair, LaDawn Sperling, and our incoming treasurer, Robin Corcus. Before hearing from our school partners, I wanted to take a moment to share with you the Action Center's 2021 work and impact. So as we take a look forward and think about the work that's to come in 2022, I always think it's important to look back to see where we've come from and to find the areas for strength and improvement as we go forward. As the Action Center was heading into the challenge of COVID, the Action Center's board of directors and staff embarked on a strategic planning process in 2020 to interview our stakeholders, our volunteers, our staff members, and all of those in the community that we partner with and collaborate with to provide our services to the Jefferson County's families and children. As we did so, we took away some really important messages from our community and doubled down on our key commitments to the community through our pillars. Those pillars are represented on this slide with our basic needs focus, responding to emergent needs in our community with services like food and clothing and emergency bill pay opportunities. We also want to focus on homelessness prevention and continue to focus on our work, not only serving those who are experiencing homelessness, but working with those in our community who are on the cusp of crisis and keeping them from losing stability through our homelessness prevention services, like rent pay, like our rental program and our bill pay services. We're also focused on poverty alleviation, and that's our deeper work with families and community members to make sure that as they come to the Action Center to have those basic and emergency needs met, we're diving in deeper with them to find out what the key factors are that are bringing them to needing help and to work with them to support their further stability. And finally, our fourth pillar is community leadership. And that pillar is designed to make sure that the Action Center is working in collaboration and partnership with others in the community to make sure we're responding to the most essential needs, and also to be leaders to provide education and information to those in our community who want to learn how they can better advocate for those in our community who are vulnerable. So as we doubled down on those commitments, the Action Center ran right into the storm of COVID. And throughout COVID created opportunities for us to look at those pillars and to determine best ways to move forward on meeting those commitments with our community. Today, we thought that after 2020, we'd be able to move back into our building to return to the way we were operating pre-COVID and respond again to the community in the ways that we always had. But here we are in 2021, finding ourselves still in the place of providing a lot of our services online and outdoors with our drive-up food distribution and our online services like bill pay and rent assistance. But even with those complications, the Action Center has been able to meet the growing need in our community with greater focus and greater impact. That impact is demonstrated in this slide. Sorry, going back to that slide. Trying to go back, there we go. All right, I'm very sorry for this technical challenge. There we go. Sorry about that. So this slide demonstrates the impact of the Action Center over the last few years, which shows you the growing needs and challenges that members of our community are facing, and shows how the Action Center has stepped up to those needs. You can see that in 2021, the Action Center served over 30,000 households. That's more than 13,000 more than we were in a typical year prior to COVID. With those households, we distributed over 2 million pounds of food and over $2 million of rent assistance and additional assistance in our bill pay program and our utility assistance program and our clothing program. You will see in 2022, the needs continue to grow, and our continued commitment to stepping up to those needs is there. So we always think that if you're not challenged, you won't continue to grow and you won't continue to improve. Well, we've certainly had our share of challenges throughout COVID. And throughout that time, we have definitely been able to learn and to grow and to stretch ourselves at the Action Center. In 2021, we launched the Countywide Food Task Force, which is a weekly meeting involving more than 40 different organizations, community leaders, and stakeholders who are working together in collaboration with us to address the food insecurity challenges and to make sure we're developing systems and sharing best practices and resources to make sure we are meeting the growing food insecurity in our county. In addition, we've launched our rent assistance program and become leaders in we've further established our rent assistance program and become leaders in our community and across the state in providing rent assistance services. In 1 year, in 1 year alone, and in both years combined, we've provided over $4 million of rent assistance to Jefferson County residents. Prior to COVID, we typically offer about $100,000 of rent assistance in a year. So just huge increase in the amount of work that there is there to support Jefferson County families and in our ability to step up to do so. We also launched our housing program, which is a support that comes in after rent assistance to make sure that those we're helping continue to be stably housed. Again, we've launched our one-of-a-kind bill pay program, and that's a program that's here to support families in ways that no other organization in Jefferson County has been able to. This allows us to be flexible and respond to a need like a car repair or an internet bill or something that can really throw off a family if they're not able to step up and have that need met. So many of the ways that we have provided assistance has helped the Action Center to grow, to be more flexible, to be more responsive and fluid in meeting families' needs. We've had so many positive lessons during this time. And one of the big lessons of COVID has been that the community has learned about the resources that the Action Center is here to provide and other organizations are here to provide. And they have learned that it's okay to ask for help. In fact, we're seeing at this time, we continue to see more than 30% of those coming to the Action Center are brand new to the Action Center. So these are families who before hadn't needed to ask for help or hadn't known to ask for help. And now we see that they are realizing that it's okay to ask for help and there are resources out there for them. We've also seen partnerships and collaborations flourish during this time. And we've found that working across boundaries, reaching out to those in the community who are working with us hand in hand to meet the needs of our community is so important and helps us to do so much more efficiently. Families in Jefferson County are diverse and have a diversity of needs. We've learned more about that diversity and we have responded to that need to get to know our neighbors better, hear about the needs of their specific culture and community and be responsive to that need. We are elevating our participant voice in that way. And we are working hard to be responsive by hiring new employees who speak Spanish, who come from the Latinx community and can be responsive to that diversity of need. Those and so many other ways and lessons that we have learned throughout COVID are so important now and will be so important moving forward in 2022. We know that families continue to need our help. In fact, low-income families have been disproportionately impacted by the challenges of COVID, and those challenges will not end as we find ways to respond to the virus. Our participant numbers have not slowed. In fact, 50% of Colorado households with children report a loss of employment, even to this day. A third of Colorado households are still having difficulty paying for their basic bills and needs. This is why the continued presence of the Action Center and other organizations in our community is so important, and this is why your support is so important to us. We want to thank you for all of the support that you've provided to the Action Center this year that has allowed us to step up in these tremendous ways to this growing need and helps us to think about 2022 and what's to come and how we continue to have that impact in the future. And now I would like to introduce you to one of our community partners who helps us to address the needs in our community facing Jefferson County's families. I'm going to introduce you to Melissa Alvarez-Lizano, who is a liaison for Rose Stein Elementary and partners with us to meet the intense needs of the families in her community. Following the presentation from Melissa, you'll hear from Tracy Dorland, Jefferson County Schools Superintendent, who will talk further about the needs facing families and children across Jefferson County. Thank you so much, and now to Melissa.
I'm the family liaison for Rose Stein Elementary School. 90% of our school is in free and reduced. That means low-income families. So that's why we need a lot of help from community members like the Action Center for the families to be able to provide everything they need for the student. And in that way, the student can concentrate only in academics. The Action Center helps us provide clothing, food, housing. They help with the bills of the family, and that makes it possible for the kids to only be concentrated in academics with their stomach full, not thinking about where they're going to sleep, because we have a lot of families that are homeless or families that move from other country to United States and they start from zero. So that's why we need a lot of help from the Action Center. There's a possibility that they can continue with the academic part in the school. So it means a possibility that they're going to grow up and be able to study. It's a possibility that they're going to be having some meal to eat next day or in the weekend. It means that they're going to be warm when the weather change. It means that when they grow up out of their clothing, they're going to be able to have something to wear, right, to keep them warm. So it means big time a lot. And it's not only the kids that we're talking about. You guys are helping the parents, the grandparents, everybody in the whole family. It doesn't have a number that you need to be receiving help. And it doesn't mean a status. It doesn't mean like if you're legal or not. It doesn't mean anything. You're just so open to helping everybody. So it means a lot to them that they're not being judged. We try to empower the families to break, and we do this to break the circle of poverty. So by receiving, they're also giving. So we have families here volunteering whenever they can. If they have 2 jobs, they can also do something at home, like cutting paper or something for an activity for school. So we try them to know that they are giving back, or they're working towards a help that they're receiving, and while they are giving back, they're also helping other families. We also talk to the families about the process of where to go in case of. So in that way, they can also talk to other families and help them through the process. So my job is multiplying in different ways, because families are helping other families. Then I also go to the classrooms, and when we receive something for the school, and I talk to them, where does that object comes from? So in that way, when they're growing up, they're able to also do that circle of helping, because I was being helped. So we are also talking to the students where those things come from, to create that a culture of helping when they are able to, because they were helped. So like I told you, sometimes I go inside the classrooms, and if it's only to let them know who is giving the items. It's also to send things home with them. So they are always seeing a lot of interactions from the community to the school, to their own families personally. So I have some of the letters that they give to us. And here it says, "Dear Melly," that is me, "thank you so much for the clothing. I remember when you gave the clothes to me." And here's a picture of the student receiving the clothing. Then, like we were talking about, food is very important for their weekends and after school, because we know that we're giving them food during the school, right, hours. But when they go home, we don't know if they have other things to feed themselves. So here it is, a picture of them. This is the food bank of the Action Center. That's how they imagine it. Then, "Dear Miss Melly, thank you so much for getting us gifts." And the gifts, we're talking about the program of Christmas, that if it wasn't because of that, they will not be receiving Christmas. "And food and water bottles. You're the best. Thank you." The Action Center is the best, because I would not be able to provide this if it wasn't from the Action Center. So yes, there's a lot of cards. I have collections. They come every day. The kids are so thankful for what you guys are doing. So yes, please continue doing it, because it's changing kids' lives big time. And we're very happy to have the Action Center as a partner. It's a lot of help. And it's magical to see the reaction of the families when they're being helped. They know that they have someone there taking care of them. So it means a lot.
Hello, this is Tracy Dorland. I'm going to look to see if I can start my video. I cannot start my video, so I will wait to see if somebody will allow me to do that. In the meantime, I'm going to start my presentation and try to share my screen here. Okay, it's just still saying I'm unable to start my video because the host has stopped it, but I am ready to present. And so maybe it's not that important that I have a video on. I'll keep trying here while I get the presentation going. The first thing I want to do is just thank Melissa so much from Rose Stein for everything she does for our students and for her partnership with the Action Center. I appreciate the message that she shared, and I very much appreciate everything she does and our staff at Rose Stein for students every day. She's one of many family engagement liaisons that we have in Jeffco, and I'm just so proud of the work that they do, and I'm so grateful for the partnership that Jeffco Schools has with the Action Center. As you can tell from Melissa's message, there's a tremendous amount of support and need that the Action Center helps us with every day. So thank you to the Action Center, and thank you to Melissa. I'm going to try to, one more time, see if I can't get myself onto the screen. Let's see here. If I can find the Zoom here. Uh-oh, I think I lost, did I lose Zoom? No. Can somebody jump in and just tell me that I'm still here and that you can hear me? Oh. Okay, let's see. I feel terrible. Let's see. Oh, we hear you and see your screen. Excellent. I'm just going to go ahead and start the presentation then. Let's see. Here it is. Cancel that. I'm sorry, I'm having technical difficulties. I'll let you all know that I really wanted to be at the Action Center today in person with the team there, but I did have COVID last week. And so my doctor has given me the all clear to be back at the office and be back with people, that I'm no longer contagious. But I feel that I need to be very respectful and need to follow the CDC guidance and be masked around other people. So I'm here in my office today, but grateful to be part of the event. So we're going to start here with just getting to know me. I thought it might be helpful for me to share a little bit about myself with all of you here today, just so you know who I am. I'm about 8 or 9 months in to the superintendent position in Jeffco. And so because I'm new to the role and new to the community as superintendent, I wanted to share a little bit about myself with you all. I first want to start with this quote because I think it's very relevant for the work that we do in Jeffco Public Schools and the work that the Action Center does and the work that we do together. So I'll give you a minute to read this quote. It's one of my favorite leadership quotes from Kouzes and Posner, who wrote the Leadership Challenge. It's one of my favorite leadership books. So I just want to emphasize that as a community leader, I am incredibly grateful to serve in this role as superintendent of Jeffco Public Schools. I take it very seriously. I want to do my best for our students, our families, our staff, and our broader community. And in that, I really do believe that leadership is a relationship. And while I know a huge part of my job is making sure that I have the right level of expertise and that I apply that expertise to making sure our district can be one of the best districts in the nation, I also know that part of my job is to listen and to sometimes take the expert hat off, really listen to our community and make sure that I understand deeply what they want for their students' educational experience, and sometimes be responsive to that need and that interest versus what we know as experts. And I think it's a balance. And I think people don't want to follow you until they know how much you care. And so I'm excited to be part of opportunities like this and other opportunities where I get to be with the community, explaining who I am and getting to know different parts of our community as well. So excited to begin building a relationship with the Action Center and all of the families that the Action Center serves. I will tell you that I started my career here as a teacher in 1999. This is a picture of my very first classroom of kids. I was a 3rd grade teacher at Castori Elementary School in Sacramento, California. It was a small school district in North Sacramento. I have this picture in my office because it reminds me that the decision-making that happens at the district level always has to have in mind the needs of the students in our classrooms. And hopefully the decisions we're making are impactful at that level. And you can see on the left-hand side here, all of the different roles that I've had and titles that I've had in Denver, Public Schools in North Sacramento School District, just to start with, and then Denver Public Schools. And I also served in Adams 12 5-star schools before coming to Jeffco. Again, I'm just, that last bullet of superintendent for Jeffco Public Schools is, it was a dream job for me, and I'm just so grateful to serve in this role and hopefully can stay as connected as possible in this role to the work that I did many years ago as a teacher and the work that so many of our teachers and school staff are doing today side by side with our families and our students. So over the last 7 months, I have had the opportunity to learn a lot about Jeffco. And I want to share with you a little bit based on the Action Center's request of what I've learned about the district and where we are as a district. Here are some patterns and trends based on data that I've reviewed in depth with our team here in Jeffco. We have a lot to be proud of. We are a really great district in Jeffco. Our graduation rates regularly beat the state. We have expanded internships, certification opportunities, and concurrent enrollment options for our students. We have more students making progress out of the lowest quartile of reading performance. One of our challenges is that we have more students starting in that lowest quartile of reading performance. And so we need to come up with ways to strengthen our programming and early literacy, but we are proud of the fact that we're moving more students than we ever have out of the lowest quartile over time. And finally, our students who qualify for IEP services, these are students who are receiving special education services. They are the one group who did not decline in their growth, academic growth, from the years of 2017 to 2019, which really was the last chunk of time when we had a normal accountability kind of measure as a district before the pandemic. So those are some really great data points that we have to be proud of. And then we also have challenges. Since 2017, we have had declining student achievement rates. And that's a real problem that we need to take a close look at and determine how best to move forward so that we can change the trajectory of academic growth for our students. And by the way, the academic achievement decline is not only for highly impacted students, it is for all students and all subgroups of students. We also, except for the students on IEPs, which I mentioned up above. We also have, additional impacts of learning loss and time in instruction for our students from the pandemic. And that's a real challenge. It's a real challenge for Jeffco. It's a real challenge for all school districts across the nation. And then we also know from looking at data that students who are not graduating with their peers on time in either 4 or 7 years, which is how the state calculates graduation, we know that they are disproportionately free and reduced lunch eligible, male, and minority. And so something's going on with that subgroup of students where we are not supporting them as they need to be supported to be on track to graduate with their peers in 4 years. And that's work that we're going to begin soon to think about strategically and really put some priorities around. So those are some of the patterns and trends that are based on the data in Jeffco at this time. And then we have identified for this year about 5 areas of focus, and we have been leaning into these areas all year long. So the first one is this just right balance between system coherence and school-based autonomy. We have about 150 schools in Jeffco, everything from Evergreen to Edgewater, and Stanley Lake to Chatfield, and everything in between. There are unique needs of the communities across that geographic region, and there will always need to be some autonomy and flexibilities for each community to do things that meet the needs of their families and their students. That being said, the role of the district is to support schools and to model the way. And we need to have some level of coherence across our schools to ensure an equitable learning and educational experience for students across Jeffco. And my assessment so far is that we don't have the just right balance, that we lean too far to the autonomy side, leaving some students to have very different experiences from others in Jeffco. And so we're working on finding the right places to build some coherence right now. We are also looking really closely at our budgets and our financial outlook and really trying to maximize the efficiency of our resources. And with our federal stimulus funds, we're looking at additional learning opportunities for students through the school year as well as during the off times in summer. We are exploring how our district is organized to support schools with improved student achievement and social emotional supports for our students and families. And as always, we will always focus on this last one, but it is very important to note and constantly keep at the forefront of our work. We are a district that is committed to focusing on relationships, collaboration, and a positive climate and culture, both internally and externally. And we are very committed to partnering with our community in the interest of our students and families. So those are the areas of focus we've been zeroing in on this year. As we head towards next year, we are working with our board to revisit our strategic plan, which is called Jeffco Generations. And so we will be working with our board as early as today in a study session starting at 3 o'clock, where the board will be looking at a process to revisit the vision, values, and mission that are in Jeffco Generations and either affirm it so we can continue with it, revise it if they think that's necessary, or change it. And there will be community engagement as part of that process. I will also be defining some priorities for 22-23 school year, which is next year, in the next 4 to 6 weeks. We want to know what those priorities are so we can do some planning and have a runway to implement those effectively next year. And then in the meantime, throughout this next semester, going into the summer, we will be doing a strategic plan and revisiting Jeffco Generations to keep what's working and what's still relevant post-pandemic, and build what else we need to be doing. Maybe stop some things that we were doing before the pandemic and refocus on other areas. And so that will be work that we are doing on this timeline, where the board will start in January and finish their work hopefully by June. The priorities will be established and worked on before next year. And then the strategic plan, which will be a 3-year plan, will be launched in late August, early September, after it's developed. There will be very broad scale community engagement opportunities through the design of the board's vision and values setting, as well as the internal strategic plan prep for the 3-year plan. And so we will be doing that work alongside our community and in partnership with our community and our staff before things are finalized. And so here are the components that we're thinking about for the strategic plan. And again, I want to reiterate, we believe in the voice of students, community, and staff, and an inclusive process as we build this out. We want to have 4 main categories. The first is our learners, our future, which will define our academic strategy and our instructional plan moving forward. We want a category on our county, our community. We need a much more robust strategy around family partnership and community engagement. We are so fortunate to have the Action Center and other organizations like the Action Center in Jeffco, and to have such a strong partnership. We want to nourish those partnerships and grow them. And so those are the types of activities that will be in this second category of our county and our community, in addition to how to engage families in a really meaningful way in our decisions and in our work to support students. We want to talk about our people, our strength, and this has to do with our staff. How do we really create an amazing and high quality workplace culture where teachers, bus drivers, food nutrition service workers, where they want to come and be part of something special in Jeffco, where they feel taken care of, where they feel valued. That's really important work for us, and that'll be a big category in the strategic plan. And finally, we want to really emphasize effective and efficient operations. Our operations is our foundation. Without effective operations, we cannot get our daily work done with kids, and it becomes a distraction to those who are trying to focus on academics and social emotional well-being efforts. And so as long as our operations are running smoothly and effectively, then our teachers, our principals, our paraprofessionals, they can really focus on the needs of our students and their families. So that's where we're headed. That's where we've been this year. That's where we're headed. And that's a little bit about me. And I just really thank you for the opportunity to be here today, to be able to speak about Jeffco Public Schools, to be able to express gratitude for our partnership with the Action Center. Thank you so much for the partnership to the Action Center staff and everyone who supports the Action Center. And thank you very much for the opportunity to speak today. I'm so proud to be the superintendent, and I'm really looking forward to continuing our strong partnership with the Action Center moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Superintendent Dorland and Melissa, for sharing with our community the critical needs and concerns of families and children that we jointly serve in Jefferson County. And thank you for your partnership as we strive to be more responsive to the diversity and complexity of needs our families face every day. As I mentioned in my earlier remarks, COVID and the economic challenges it brought disproportionately impacted our already vulnerable low-income communities, and especially our communities of color. Among this population, our immigrant communities are often particularly at risk and can be overlooked and harder to reach. At the Action Center, we have learned that we can overcome the barriers to providing help if we are willing to take our support beyond our walls and to start by consistently listening and responding to what we hear. The Action Center moved deliberately in this direction this year, hiring 4 Latinx and bilingual staff members, including Tracy, our outreach manager, who is building bridges between the Action Center and the community in her work with Jeffco Schools. Partnerships with our local schools and school liaisons to bring food, clothing, school supplies, holiday gifts, and financial support to their families is our best opportunity to build relationships of trust and support with families who come to know and trust their schools communities. To illustrate the importance of these partnerships, I share the story of Veronica, a parent at Mulholm Elementary student. During one of our food distribution days, Veronica learned of our Thanksgiving distribution event and of our holiday adopt-a-family program. Her family was able to participate in both. In another instance, the school liaison, Letty, at Dean Elementary, had a family that was in need of help paying for a car repair, which was putting their family in further jeopardy in terms of holding their employment. Letty called the Action Center and asked if there was anything we could do to help the family. Our bill pay program was the answer. Tracy worked with this family, speaking Spanish and helping them to feel comfortable. The Action Center was able to pay for her car to be fixed. These are but two examples of the small but extremely meaningful supports that our partnership with Jeffco Schools has brought to families in our community. I could share many more. The bottom line is that we know that children thrive when parents are thriving, and parents thrive when they have the critical resources they need to raise healthy kids. When these things come together, the whole family and community is stronger. As we emerge from COVID crisis, we hope to emerge stronger with deeper relationships, greater awareness, and a visible commitment to partnering with Jeffco Schools and Jeffco families to provide the supports that are truly the most needed and the most impactful. We are committed to asking and listening to hear how we can best support the diverse needs in our community, and are excited to build on the relationships of caring and trust that are growing through this work. Thank you again to Melissa, to Superintendent Dorland, and to all the school liaisons and caring educators that are represented through them today. We are proud to partner with you and to support Jeffco's families. And now I would like to introduce Robin Corcus, our incoming treasurer of our board, who is going to review the Action Center's 2021 financial report. Thank you.
For the Action Center, and I'm representing Dave Norwood, who is the outgoing treasurer who couldn't be here today. I'm going to speak to our audited financials for the fiscal 2021. You can find those, and I encourage you to download those in our chat function on your screen. So during 2021, we had a really good year. A couple of significant financial events took place. First, for the 16th straight month, the Action Center brought in more revenues than was budgeted. The Action Center also composed and approved an investment policy. That investment policy allowed us to invest $4 million upfront in Community First endowment accounts. This is a major step forward for the Action Center and allows us to have long-term financial viability. The Action Center became the fiscal sponsor for Recovery Works, which is the opening of the new shelter. This is very helpful that we have a partner in place to make that happen. From a financial perspective, the balance sheet is really strong, stronger than ever, with $894,000 in operating cash, in addition to almost $4.5 million in the endowment fund I mentioned earlier. Our largest liability is $802,000, which supports the mortgages for our facilities. Our second largest liability is $352,000, for Paycheck Protect, which has since been forgiven. Revenues for the year were about $8 million, and I'll go through that in detail. The 2021 fiscal year individual donations were $2.4 million, plus an additional $1.2 million in bequests, totaling $3.6 million. This compares to a budget of just $924,000. It's a really great job from John and the team at the Action Center in ensuring that we've got those revenues coming in. The business donations for 2021 fiscal year were $345,000, which was about on plan. And the government grant revenue for 2021 was $2.2 million. We only budgeted $811,000 for that. This is where we capture grant revenue to support rent assistance and other programs that have skyrocketed due to COVID. I'll speak to that a little bit later. The foundation's donations for 2021 were about $1.3 million, and that compares to a budget of $471,000. So as I mentioned, our total revenues for 2021 totaled $8 million on a budget of just 3.5. That's 128% over budget. So really, really well done. Very healthy year for the Action Center. The expenses for FY21, personal expenses for the year totaled $1.865 million compared to a budget of $1.899 million. This is a very close to plan amount. The program services expenses for the fiscal year totaled $2.9 million compared to a budget of $931. As mentioned earlier, a lot of that is due primarily because of rent assistance. Many people in our communities are needing help, and we've been able to get grant revenue to support that big expense. As an example, in June, rent assistance was $400,000 on a budget of just $7,000. So that's a huge impact and takes a lot of effort for our teams to support. Total expenses for 2021 were about $5.6 million on a budget of $3.7, so a bit overspent, again, due to rent assistance by about $2 million. So net revenues over expenditures were for fiscal 2021 were $2.6 million on a budgeted loss of $159. We have, as I mentioned, $4.5 million of endowment fund in cash and are really well in position for 2022 and the years to come. So thanks for a great year. I'll now turn it over to LaDawn Sperling, President of the Board. She'll do some board appreciations and announcements of upcoming board members. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm LaDawn Sperling, and I have the honor of being the president of the board of the Action Center. I believe very strongly in putting my time and talents towards making our community a better place, and that's exactly what's happening here at the Action Center. The need is great in our community, but we can make an impact. We have an amazing group of board members, and I really appreciate their expertise, their guidance, and their enthusiasm for serving the community. Each year, we welcome new members, say goodbye to those moving on to other opportunities, and honor those who are taking on roles on our board officers. We have returning members of the executive committee, myself as president, Barb Goodman as vice president and incoming president, Diana Wilson as secretary, and Cindy Barroway as past president. We do have a new member of the executive committee this year. You just heard from her. Robin Corcus is our new treasurer. I'm very excited to serve with these executive committee members, but I do want to thank Dave Norwood, who is our outgoing treasurer. Next, I'd like to introduce 3 new members of the board of directors. First is Dr. Beverly Clark. Beverly is Vice President of Academic Affairs, Chief Academic Officer at Red Rocks Community College. He is a strategic thinking and innovative change agent who has supported diversity and modeled inclusive behavior and practices throughout his career in academia. He does have his PhD in physics, and we're not going to share with him my thoughts on high school physics. That's just between us. Welcome, Bev. Next is Representative Carrie Tipper. Carrie is the state representative for Colorado House District 28. Having served in the Attorney General's office for both Colorado and Massachusetts, she is an accomplished lawyer. Carrie completed her bachelor's degree from the University of Denver Go Pioneers, and her Juris Doctorate from Northeastern University School of Law. She will make a great new addition to the board of directors. Welcome, Carrie. And not pictured, because apparently scientists do not have headshots just laying around, is Martin Eckert. Martin is the owner, president, and senior project scientist at Eagle Environmental. His company provides subsurface assessment, remediation, and compliance services of upstream and downstream petroleum industries. He has completed numerous projects for the state of Colorado. His attention to detail on these projects and his success as a business owner will come in handy as we look to the future of the Action Center. Welcome, Martin. When a board member terms out of their service on the Action Center Board of Directors, it's really not goodbye. They're simply embarking on a new area of service and support. We have 3 board members who are transitioning and have reached their term limits. Please join me in expressing our immense appreciation for the following individuals who have tirelessly supported the Action Center and become my dear friends. Dr. Lisa Fowler. Lisa's day job is with Red Rocks Community College, and she played a huge role in the collaboration between the Action Center and Red Rocks to house homeless students. Lisa also always looked for strategic ways to partner with the Action Center and was quick to host us as the space for offsite meetings. We also appreciated her work on the development committee. Joel Varnell. Joel served on the executive committee as secretary and on the risk committee. His background as an attorney came in handy many times. His level-headed approach to issues was always appreciated. I sat next to Joel at many meetings as he meticulously typed in the meeting minutes. And last but not least, Cindy Barraway. Where do I begin? Cindy has been treasurer, vice president, and president twice. She served on the risk committee and played an important role in our capital campaign to purchase and renovate our program services building. She was a great leader and community connector when the Action Center was going through tough times. I personally am certainly glad she was president instead of me at the beginning of the global pandemic. She has been a huge champion of the Action Center throughout the community. She's been my co-cashier at Beautiful Junk and my mentor. I met Cindy through the Action Center, and she has become one of my very dear friends. I'm so glad she will continue to serve as a member of the executive committee as past president, but is sad to see that she will no longer be a voting member of the board. Thank you to the 3 of you for your service, and thank you to all of our board members. Those who weren't mentioned as executive committee or new board members include Denver Ma, John Alish, Lori Rubio, Michael Kozakowski, Dave Norwood, Michelle Foley, Scott Gilbert, and Sharon Trefney. Also, thank you to you, our donors and supporters. We couldn't do the work that we're doing at the Action Center without you. Remember, if you would like a copy of our audit, simply click on the link within the chat field or contact our office at 303-237-7704. Thank you again for attending, and we wish you a fantastic 2022.